Africa as a whole is being recognized more, but at the same time, just because there's recognition doesn't mean that change is necessarily occurring.
My name is Adama Kamara, and I'm from Sierra Leone.
My name is Amna Sadek, and I'm from Sudan.
My name is Frank Daril Nanatambi, and I'm from Cameroon.
My name is Ama, and I am from Ghana.
My name is Jonathan Emmett Bennett. I was born in Beverly, Massachusetts, but I'm from a small city in Ghana called Sunyani.
My name is Jessica Isabor, and I'm from Nigeria.
My name is Mohammed Mukaram. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm half Senegalese and half African American.
My name is Lilt Ermias, and I'm from Ethiopia.
My name is Desi, and I'm from Cameroon.
My name is Diane Mwanga. My family's from Kenya, but I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri.
I'm Diamba Tamana, and I was born in Togo.
The perception of Africa has changed now because people realize that it isn't what we were told a lot of the times.
General culture, it's kind of shifted from seeing Africa as like some sort of desolate wasteland with like starving children and disease-stricken, and shifting more toward the vibrancy of the culture and like the music and just like there are people there and they're like real people and real stories on the continent.
It's changed in two main ways. The first being that visibility has increased massively, and the second way being that I think that people have a more positive association with the African continent.
We, as like a society in America, have seen African as like one unit when there are so many countries in Africa, and I feel like we're moving away from that, and we are starting to distinctify each country and each culture.
The main ways I feel connected to my culture are through food and my values that my parents raised me on, but also language. In Sudan we speak Arabic, and I've been taking Arabic for the past 2 semesters.
The people at my house right now, we all cook African food. We speak French. Je parle un peu français avec toute ma famille. And we're always just, it's all African in my house. There's no other way to say it.
Usually when I cook, it's at the community kitchen, so I find a lot of people come and ask about the food, and I'm always playing music while I'm cooking, so there's that. I also, sometimes when I'm talking to my friends, I'll sometimes just start speaking Tree or some other language, like just to keep the conversation going. I just blurt out words. That's just something I do.
I listen to a lot of music from Africa, Afrobeats, Wizkid, Davido, everybody, that kind of music. I also listen to a lot of French rap. A lot of people don't listen to French rap, and people, like Sneezy and everybody else from like Morocco, Cameroon, Senegal.
My biggest way is through food, so cooking for like my friends, that kind of thing. And then also through like the music I listen to, talking to my parents too, just like being able to share stories with them, hear about how they were growing up and how I grew up here and how those things can like connect or disconnect.
I dance a lot. I'm part of the African dance team here. So I dance here, I dance at home. And also like in my household, we speak our native tongue, which is Edo. I'm not very good at speaking it, but like just being immersed in that environment where we're constantly like exposed to our native language, our food, our culture, our dance.
Whenever I think of like Africa now, I think of mostly musicians.
I of course have to start with Burna Boy.
Davido.
The Weeknd, because I know that in his music he has spoken Amharic and like given tribute to his culture.
Diamond on the East African side.
Wizkid and Davido.
Wizkid.
DJ Drogba.
Burna Boy.
Shoma Josie with her new song. Like, I think everyone is, starting to realize, okay, there's talent here that we've never really seen. Like, let's learn about it.
In relation to academics, you have Chimamanda Adichie Ngozi.
An old-time fave, Chimamanda.
President Obama being the first Black president, but also being Kenyan as well. Like, that was a big thing here in the States, but also for Kenyans as well, just to have like a global presence of someone from their country like doing good things in the world.
All of us, I think Africans in universities across the country and Africans that are in Africa and what they do on social media and the conversations that events like Taste of Africa, things that we do here, that sends the message that allows us to represent our countries even though we're not there.
The Sudan Revolution, that was a big thing for me in this past year. Initially, I thought it was just a big thing because I was personally involved with it and I have an attachment to it. But when I realized that everyone was changing their profile pictures to blue and it was all over the news, I started to realize that it was this global movement and it wasn't just Sudanese people at that moment.
There's Beyonce releasing the Gift album. That was huge, and I feel like that really connected to people in the States and honestly all around the world.
I definitely think the release of Black Panther was an eye-opening event that happened for this country in particular.
I think that opened up a lot of discussion about Africa as a monolith, all of the different cultures that the African continent encompasses.
Coming here from Togo, it was all, the negative stuff of Africa, being from Africa, and all the bad things that come from it. But I think that people are really starting to appreciate, Africa for what it really is.
Just because there's recognition doesn't mean that change is necessarily occurring. So I want it to be recognized, but at the same time, we also have to make sure we're continuing that effort for a change in a good way.
There are times when cultures are given more visibility, that cultural appropriation begins because people think something is so cool and they want to make it their own. But I think that can be absolved with educating, what's okay, what we can share and what is like stealing, just like identifying the differences.
It kind of takes the responsibility off of individuals feeling the need or feeling compelled to educate people on what's really going on in Africa, what it means to be Africans, diversity in different African cultures.
With this hyper visibility, there's a really big opportunity to control our narratives because at least in my lifetime, I feel like all of the negative associations we have or people have with the African continent have to do with just the fact that other people are controlling our narratives. And so I think that we have the opportunity to speak about ourselves and we have the opportunity to put out our own art and to control everything about the way that people see us.
Not every country in the world talks about gun violence here in America, but with African countries, when we talk about Nigeria or Ghana or any other country, we try to show the bad side. So I think visibility is good if we're showing that every country is just as vulnerable in this world and that African countries are doing their best to succeed.
As I've grown older, I've noticed that now people are more aware of where Ethiopia is, what part of Africa it's in and things like that. I know growing up, I would say I'm from Ethiopia and no one would know where it was and no one would care. But now I can say I'm from Ethiopia and I feel like people are more interested in knowing what is the culture there? What language is spoken? So in my adulthood, I am much more happy with how I'm viewed as an African.
Some of my friends feel more African or more proud to be African, I would say. But for me, I've been connected with my African culture every day. Every time I talk to my parents, I'll speak to them in French. I talk to my grandma, she only speaks French. I go home, I eat African food. So I feel with that, I'm very already connected. But it's nice to see that other people are being more open about their African cultures. It's nice to come to college and see everybody. Oh, you're Cameroonian. Oh, wow, you're Nigerian. Oh, it's amazing. So it's nice.
Growing up in the States, I'm always am I Kenyan? Am I American? What am I? And it's growing up in a family, at home, it's all Kenyan culture, but then at school, it's westernized. And for me personally, I identify as Kenyan first, even though I basically grew up here my whole life. But it's because Kenyan blood is inside me, and that's me first, but I'm also American. So I tell people I'm Kenyan American. And so for me, it's just allowed me to embrace my culture. Because I think, when you grow up in an environment where, people from Africa may be a small portion of people in a school setting or whatever setting, it's sometimes hard to express your culture or go about talking with other people about what you do at home. And for me, I've just learned, embrace it as much as you can, and that's where you're from, and I'm proud of my roots.
So I feel like I have always felt connected to the continent, but with this increase in visibility, I'm more inclined to talk about it and be excited about events that are happening surrounding it. So for example, Taste of Africa is coming up, and I'm really excited for people who are outside of African culture to get to see that experience and see that in the context of this hypervisibility and kind of introduce Africa to them.